The day I ran away felt like the end of everything. My mate, the one person who was supposed to be my constant, had shattered the fragile world we were building. I'd always heard the mate bond was unbreakable, that it was a lifeline connecting souls destined for one another. But that image burned into my mind, him standing too close to her, laughing, his hand brushing hers, ripped it apart. I hadn't confronted him. How could I? My heart was already in pieces, and I couldn't bear to hear him confirm what I'd seen. So I packed a bag, left a hastily scrawled note, and fled. The bond tugged at me as I crossed the border of our pack's territory, a faint ache in my chest that I forced myself to ignore. The child growing inside me deserved better than a father who couldn't be faithful. Months passed in the quiet solitude of the small village I'd chosen as my refuge. Nestled in a valley surrounded by dense forest, it felt like a place untouched by the chaos of the outside world. I found work at a small cafe, where the patrons were friendly but didn't pry too much into my past. My growing belly was a source of whispers, but I didn't mind. It was easier this way. At night, though, the emptiness crept in. The mate bond didn't sever when I ran. It lingered, a faint pulse in the back of my mind. Sometimes I thought I felt his emotions, regret, pain, longing, but I pushed those thoughts away. He had no right to feel anything after what he'd done. I'd started to prepare for the baby's arrival. The tiny clothes, the crib I'd painstakingly assembled, the blankets I knitted during lonely evenings. They were all reminders that I wasn't alone, even if it often felt that way. The storm rolled in without warning, the wind howling through the trees and rain lashing against the windows of my small cottage. I curled up on the worn couch, a book in hand, trying to distract myself from the unease growing in my chest. It wasn't just the storm outside, it was something deeper, a disturbance in the bond that had been dormant for so long. Then I felt it, a presence at the edge of the forest. My heart stuttered as I rose to my feet, peering out the window into the darkness. A pair of golden eyes glowed in the shadows, unmistakable even after all this time. My mate. I didn't open the door when he knocked. Instead, I stood on the other side, my hand resting against the wood, as if the thin barrier could keep him out. "You shouldn't be here," I said, my voice trembling. "I had to find you," he replied, his tone raw. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I snapped, the anger I'd bottled up for months spilling over. "I saw you with her. Laughing, touching her. How could you do that to me?" He was silent for a moment and I thought he might leave. But then his voice came again, quieter this time. "It wasn't what you think. Please, let me explain." Against my better judgment, I opened the door. He looked different, worn, as if he hadn't slept in weeks. His eyes immediately dropped to my swollen belly and something like relief crossed his face. "You're okay," he whispered. "Say what you need to say and leave," I said, crossing my arms over my chest. "She's my cousin," he blurted out, his voice cracking. "The woman you saw me with. She came to me because she'd just been rejected by her mate. I was trying to comfort her." I froze. The ground felt like it shifted beneath me. "Your cousin?" He nodded, stepping closer. "I'd never betray you. Never. You're my mate. You and our baby mean everything to me." I wanted to believe him. The sincerity in his eyes, the way he spoke as if I were the center of his world. It felt real. But the walls I'd built around my heart wouldn't come down so easily. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I spent months thinking I wasn't enough for you." "I tried," he said, his hands running through his hair in frustration. "You were gone before I even knew what had happened. I searched everywhere for you. Do you have any idea how much it hurt, feeling the bond fade day by day? The bond. I tried to ignore it, but now it flared to life, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. I felt his anguish, his love, his desperation. And I realized the truth. I'd let my fears blind me to the bond we shared. Tears streamed down my face as I took a shaky step forward. "I was so scared," I admitted. "Scared of losing you. Scared of being broken." He reached for me, his hands gentle as they cupped my face. "I'm so sorry you ever felt that way. But you'll never lose me. I'm here and I'm not going anywhere." That night we talked for hours. He told me about the search, the nights he'd spent worrying about me, and the guilt he carried for not realizing how I'd felt. I told him about the baby, about the quiet life I'd tried to build, and about the fear that had kept me running. By the time the storm passed, so had the tension between us. He stayed, his arms wrapped around me as we lay in bed, the bond between us stronger than ever. For the first time in months, I felt whole again. As dawn broke, I knew we still had a long road ahead. Trust would take time to rebuild, and the wounds of the past wouldn't heal overnight. But with him by my side, I believed we could face anything. And as he pressed a kiss to my forehead and whispered, "I love you," I finally let myself believe it too.
And that concludes the end of this audiobook. Please like, share, and subscribe for more, and see you on my next free audiobook.